Look at this poll. Chris Christie pulling ahead of Ron DeSantis among New Hampshire voters. Hal Lambert is with us this morning. Hal Lambert is a DeSantis guy. Can you explain what's going on here?
Look, these polls are going to move around. I mean, look, this is a two-person race. The internal polling shows very clearly that the vast majority of current Trump supporters, 80+%, their second choice is DeSantis. So if he does, it's all going to DeSantis for the most part. That's where this is headed.
Are you pinning your hopes on New Hampshire and Iowa that Trump loses badly there and your guy comes up?
Well, I think certainly DeSantis has a great shot of winning both. I think he wins Iowa certainly, which will change the outcome in New Hampshire. But no, I mean, he's got the resources and the ground game and the infrastructure to take this deep into Super Tuesday and then after Super Tuesday. So another reason why this is a two-person race is he's the only one that has those resources available to do that.
Now, I'm sure you've seen the latest Fox News power rankings. Trump dominates. He's clearly the front runner. DeSantis and Tim Scott are behind, but they are way behind. How did that happen to DeSantis? How did he lose so much ground?
Well, again, this is a two-person. People that are DeSantis or Trump. That's where they are. And so when Trump's had all these indictments come down over the past 6 months, the Trump people or people that are trying to decide between the two have kind of knee-jerked over to Trump because they're upset, and they should be upset about what's happening. So I think that's the way to explain that, is those indictments have certainly, in the short term, helped Trump.
You have a new op-ed, and you're saying the Republicans won't start winning until they stop whining. You want to explain that to us, Hal? Who is whining?
Well, a lot of people. There's a lot of talking heads that are going on, and there's a lot of complaining about what's happening to Trump. I get it. People are upset. But complaining about it nonstop over the next 14 months is not going to win the election. I mean, what's happening to Trump right now, the die has been cast. He is going to spend the next 14 months in court, in and out of court. His costs, his legal fees, all of that, all the resources are going to be focused on that. It's not going to be focused on running against Joe Biden. This will be a referendum on Trump if he's the nominee. It will not be a referendum on Biden, and I think that's a huge mistake.
Why doesn't your guy come out more forcefully and criticize and go after Trump?
Well, I mean, I think he's going to go after him and has on policy positions such as he didn't build the wall, he didn't dismantle the deep state. So there's those issues. He's not going to go after him on personal stuff. That's not where we're headed. But look, Stuart, I want to just highlight one other thing. Even if Trump were to pull this off and win against Joe Biden, he's got 2 years and then he's a lame duck. I mean, that's the reality. It'll take him a year with a Republican Senate, if he's able to get one, to get his people in place to do anything. And then do we really want to look up in 4 years and have 16 people on the stage again, spending hundreds of millions of dollars attacking each other? The power of an incumbent president is really important. If you have incumbency, there's a lot of power there. We need someone that can serve 8 years. DeSantis could serve 8 years. He's the best governor in the country. Why would we pick someone who ultimately can only, after 2 years, is done, versus someone that can go 8 years? It'll take that long to dismantle the deep state.
The first debate, GOP debate, is 1 week from today. Fox is handling it. Do you know what Ron DeSantis' strategy is going to be in the debate? Is he going to come out firing with all cylinders, attacking other people, or what?
Well, he's going to be the one under attack. So whether Trump is there or not, the other candidates are likely to fire on him, which he's prepared for. If Trump's there, he'll still be under attack. But either way, he's prepared for a Trump appearance or a non-Trump appearance. And I think he's going to do extremely well. I mean, if you've seen his latest interviews, I mean, he understands these issues. He understands what needs to happen. Look, he served in Congress, so he knows how the swamp works up there. He knows how to dismantle this thing, and he can really get it done. What he did in Florida, he said exactly what he did and did what he said. There's no other governor that's done that. I mean, we have a candidate that actually gets done what he says he's going to do.
Are you backing DeSantis all the way through, no matter what?
Oh, I'm 100% behind DeSantis. Now, look, I'm not a never Trumper, as you know. Look, I have an America First ETF. The ticker's MAGA. Yep. So I've liked Trump. I'm not a Trump hater. People need to understand that. But I've been involved in 4 presidential campaigns, and I can see what's going to happen here. We have our best shot with a DeSantis. If Trump is the nominee, I think it's very likely we lose to Biden. And even if he does pull it off, it's going to be a problem from day one because he's going to be out of there in one term. And I think we're not going to be able to get what we need done in one term.
Okay, in 30 seconds, what is it that you most dislike about Trump?
What is that I most dislike? Look, I'm frustrated that a lot of, I think, what's going on right now, he could have avoided. I think, for instance, the documents in his home, why didn't he just return those? That could have avoided the whole thing. Same thing happened with Pence. He gave them back immediately. Biden gave them back immediately, although Biden held them for years. And so, yes, it's unfair what's happening. I totally get it. But a lot of this he could have avoided. And I think there's going to be real problems in Georgia. You've got 18 others under indictment. What do you think that DA is doing? They're going to sit there and say, look, you've got 3 of you guys who are going to cut a deal. The rest of you going to jail. So the first 3 that step forward, I think we're going to start to see people turn. This is going to be a mess. This cannot be a referendum on the court battles for Donald Trump. This has to be a referendum on Biden, and that's why we have to go with a different candidate.
Al Lambert, we hear you. Thank you very much for joining us.